Discover the incredible journey of Russia's only aircraft carrier, a heartwarming story of unexplored dreams and lost legacies. In a quaint coastal town where the salty air mingled with the scent of rusting metal, there stood a giant and abandoned ghost of the sea. The Admiral Kuznetsov, once a proud symbol of military might, loomed in disrepair. Its hull was faded and its deck littered with memories, making it a haunting sight that stirred the blood of the townsfolk. Among them was Jake, a shipyard worker whose heart beat in rhythm to both the waves crashing against the docks and the stories shared across kitchen tables about the ocean. But Jake was different. So different. At just 28, he wasn't content merely working with the vessels, he dreamt of crafting them. He longed to become a naval architect, designing the ships of tomorrow. Yet, with each passing day, the weight of his dreams felt heavier, shadowed by the economic hardships of his town. As he watched the Kuznetsov rust away, a glimmer sparked within him, an idea that maybe this forgotten ship could be his passage to a brighter future, both for himself and for the town. But that hope was quickly clouded by his father's hushed disdain. To Jake's dad, that carrier was a painful reminder of battles fought and lost, of broken dreams connected to a foreign land. Their history weighed like an anchor. Over dinner, when Jake dared to voice his ambition, he could feel tension in the air thick enough to cut. His father's eyes blazed with the fire of buried emotion. "It's just metal, Jake. It won't replace the past," he said, his voice quivering. Jake's chest tightened. Could he pursue this dream without losing what remained of their relationship? Days passed, and the town buzzed with news the Kuznetsov was slated for refurbishment. Excitement rippled through the community. Yet, as quickly as hope ignited, it flickered. Bureaucratic red tape wrapped tighter around the project with each effort to get it moving. Jake felt the familiar pinch of despair, but this time, he refused to back down. He rallied his neighbors and turned their gatherings into workshops, showing strips of memories and art history, bringing light to the dark corners of the vessel. It wasn't just a ship, it was a repository of stories, a chance for them all to connect, to revive the pulse of their town. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the long-awaited public reveal approached, so did the heaviness of choices and their implications. Jake could see his father standing there, a storm brewing behind his eyes. Would he come to embrace the idea, or would it drive a wedge deeper between them? The day was finally here. As Jake stepped toward the crowd, he felt both terror and resolve. This was about more than just a ship, it was about legacy and healing. With a thunderous silence wrapping around him, Jake took a deep breath and prepared to share his ambitions, hearts quietly hungering for the uncharted waters of their collective future. Would this be the moment that turned tides for him and his father? Would the past finally let go? All eyes were on him, and he was ready to reveal not just the carrier, but himself. The crowd's breath became a collective pause, a hush that echoed across the harbor. Jake stood at the makeshift podium, the salty breeze tugging at his shirt. Their faces, a blend of hope and skepticism, appeared before him like a mosaic of dreams. Each glance held the weight of history, of expectations, and of unspoken words. He felt his heart race, thumping like a drum demanding to be heard. "Thank you all for being here," Jake began, his voice steady despite the nerves coiling in his stomach. The old wooden deck of the Kuznetsov creaked beneath his feet, as if it too was listening. "Today is not just about the ship behind me, it's about us. It's about what we can rebuild together." His words spilled out, unfurling a tapestry woven with tales of fishermen, sailors, and the legacy of their town. He spoke of the history that clung to the Kuznetsov, how it wasn't just metal that represented the past, but stories of sacrifice, honor, and dreams forsaken. Each anecdote drew forth soft nods and murmurs from the crowd, an undercurrent of unease shifting towards something warmer. Imagine, he continued, feeling emboldened, what it could look like if we harnessed this opportunity to revive not just a ship, but our vibrant community spirit. Let us turn this rusty dream into a beacon for the generations to come. A place where children can learn about the sea, and where families can gather and feel connected to something greater than themselves. At that moment, Jake's gaze swept across the crowd, landing on his father. The old man's face was etched with a mixture of skepticism and curiosity. For a fleeting moment, Jake thought he saw a flicker of pride there, softened his expression, but it vanished as quickly as it came. Taking a shaky breath, he pressed on, we don't have to cling to only painful memories. Together, we can define what this ship will mean to us moving forward. The crowd stirred, and he heard whispers. Some were supportive, while others remained cautious. He understood their hesitation, they were protecting their own wounds, just as his father protected his. But there was fire in Jake's belly. He had to push through, just like the waves breaking against the rocks. I need your help, Jake added, his voice rising with urgency. Let us form a committee. We can gather ideas, seek funding, paint murals that showcase our history and aspirations. The Kuznetsov represents what we were, but it can also symbolize what we can become, a testament to resilience. Applause broke through the tension, sparking like fireworks in the twilight. Nods of agreement emerged, faces softening, engaged in possibilities. Yet amidst the applause, Jake noticed his father still standing, stone-faced, arms crossed tightly. It stung that as he looked back at the crowd, the collective hope was palpable, filling the air with electric energy. But Jake's heart sank as a realization dawned on him, this was only the beginning. How would he persuade his father to see it his way? Could he mend the rift between their visions? The event ended, and people began to disperse, but Jake stayed behind, drawn not just to the Kuznetsov but to the conflict that tugged relentlessly at his heart. He took a deep breath, stepping away to collect his thoughts, silently praying his father would come over. Jake, his father's voice finally broke into his thoughts, a whisper of uncertainty layered with something heavier. Jake turned, hope mingling with anxiety. Dad? He urged, heart racing again. Would this be the moment they would finally speak about the dreams that haunted them both? The silence between them stretched, fraught with unsaid words and tangled emotions. Jake could feel everything hanging by a thread, the past, the present, the future. He waited, ready for whatever might spill out. What would his father say? Would the weight they both carried finally lift, or would it pull them further apart? Jake, his father began, the words heavy with years of silence. What you said today, it's ambitious. But rebuilding this ship won't bring back what we lost. Jake flinched at the finality in his father's tone. It felt like the air had gone cold. He knew his father had been through a lot, but it was maddening how he could reduce their aspirations to mere memories. Dad, it's not just about the ship. It's about moving forward. We can make something new, something proud, Jake pleaded, stepping closer. He desperately searched his father's eyes for even a glimmer of understanding, of hope. This town needs it. We need it. His father's brow furrowed deeper, and Jake felt the old familiar tightening in his chest, a sense of dread that they were circling the same argument yet again. But at what cost? What if this fails? What if it just reminds us of what we couldn't save? Rebuilding can be a way of healing. Jake insisted, frustration bubbling beneath his calm facade. If we bring the Kuznetsov back, it can give us a purpose. Sometimes we have to take risks to heal, to connect again. I thought you of all people would understand that. The things we treasure can also haunt us, son. His father shook his head, his voice barely above a whisper. He looked out to the sea, the dark waters reflecting the twilight sky. Your ambition is admirable, but passion doesn't erase the pain. The word stung. Jake felt a wave of emotions crash over him, anger, hurt, and an aching desire for his father's support. He had fought so hard to ignite that spark of hope in the community. And yet here he was, face to face with the one man whose approval he sought most, and all he felt was a widening gulf between them. "I can't do this without you, Dad," Jake confessed, vulnerability creeping into his voice. "I need your guidance, your wisdom. We could honor the past and build toward the future together. Don't you want that?" For a moment, silence enveloped them again, heavy and suffocating. The crowd that had once been there was now a distant murmur, their cheers fading into the unreal stillness of the evening. Jake fidgeted, watching his father's weathered face as if hoping it would snap into a smile. "I want you to be happy," his father finally said, but the doubt in his eyes made Jake's heart sink. "You've got big dreams, but I fear you might be setting yourself up for disappointment. Those who tread the waters of wishful thinking often drown, Jake." In that tense moment, it hit him this wasn't just about the Kuznetsov anymore. It was about a father's fear and a son's hope colliding in the uncharted waters of their relationship. Jake's resolve hardened. "Then let me prove it to you," he challenged, his voice steady, muscles coiling like springs. "If I can't succeed, if this doesn't bring us closer, then I'll walk away from it all, I swear. But I won't let fear dictate what I believe we can achieve." His father's expression shifted, surprise tinged with pride flickering for just a heartbeat in those deep-set eyes. "Fine," his father said at last, a weary sigh escaping his lips. "But remember, you're not just taking on a ship. You're tackling the weight of our past, and it's heavier than you realize." Jake nodded, determination sparking anew within him. He'd take that weight and run with it. As they stood side by side, staring out at the Kuznetsov silhouetted against the lingering sunset, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the start of something bigger. What else would he discover as he revived not just the ship, but the heart of his family? And what would it take to truly bridge the chasm between their dreams and their fears? The first light of dawn broke over the water, painting the waves in hues of gold and orange. Jake stood at the dock, his heart racing as he watched the Kuznetsov loom before him. After last night's fervent conversation with his father, it felt like a new beginning. This ship, once a symbol of loss, could become a beacon of hope. He could already envision the day when families would gather to celebrate the ship's restoration. Laughter would echo off the steel hull, children would wave flags, and for a moment, the past would fade into whispers. But first, he needed a plan. Jake spent the morning gathering materials, sketching ideas in his notebook, the pages becoming a canvas for his hopes. Each line he drew connected him to the town, a town steadfast in its grief but hungry for rebirth. He imagined introducing sailing tours, educational programs, a community center inside the ship. These ideas brought a smile to his face, yet shadows lurked in the corner. Could they really pull this off? As the sun climbed higher, Jake's mom joined him at the dock. She looked soft and tentative, with a glimmer of uncertainty in her eyes. "Jake," she said softly, glancing at the ship, "your father he's worried." "I know, Mom." Jake's voice held tight resolve. "But I need his support now more than ever. If he can just see how much this means to all of us." She placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch grounding him. "Maybe you should show him the community's interest. Host a meeting, gather the town. Let them voice their hopes, too." It struck him then. An idea so simple yet powerful. They could unite the past with the future in that meeting. He nodded quickly, the excitement bubbling within. "Yes. I can set it up for this weekend." Days passed, each one filled with anticipation. Jake went door to door, inviting neighbors, friends, and anyone who had a story about the Kuznetsov. He shared his vision, encouraged them to speak, and slowly, he could see the tiniest flicker of enthusiasm spreading like wildfire. By Friday evening, they gathered at the local community center, a space that typically echoed with the whispers of bygone days. The room filled with familiar faces, some shared memories that made Jake's heart swell, others brought laughter that nestled in the depths of grief. Jake took a deep breath before stepping onto the makeshift stage, determined to give everything he had. The crowd quieted, eyes glued to him, hope sparkling in the air like fireflies. "Thank you all for coming," he began, and with every word, he felt the energy shift. "This isn't just about bringing back the Kuznetsov. It's about reclaiming our spirit." He shared the plans he had sketched, weaving a tapestry of dreams where every thread connected back to their history and aspirations. As he spoke, he could see his dad in the back, arms crossed, face stoic like a statue. Jake swallowed hard but pressed on, pouring himself into every word. Questions began to emerge, voices rang out in the crowd, heartfelt discussions igniting like sparks, transforming Jake's ambitions into a shared dream. When a young boy stood up and boldly declared he wanted to help his family come aboard, Jake felt warmth radiate through him. This was bigger than him. At that moment, Jake caught a glimpse of his father, who had shifted uneasily, engagement catching him like a net. Jake held his father's gaze, courage battling with uncertainty. Would he finally understand? As the meeting drew to a close, applause erupted. The energy was electric, a renewed purpose taking hold. Standing in the midst of this moment, Jake's heart raced. Yet, he still needed to know, could he bridge the gap between their dreams? Before he left the stage, he made eye contact with his father. "Dad, I hope you join us in this journey. Together, we can honor the past and rebuild for the future." His father finally stepped forward, expression tight as he took a breath. "Jake, we need to talk." What would he say? Would it be support or skepticism? Jake felt the weight of the room shift around him, each heart hanging on the brink of a shared dream. Jake's heart pounded in his chest as his father approached. The room seemed to vanish, the chatter of voices fading to a distant hum. All he could see was the man who had carried the weight of the world on his shoulders for too long, struggling under the burden of grief and disconnection. "Let us step outside," his father said, the tension in his voice pulling Jake forward. The air outside was cool, a welcome contrast to the warmth of the community center. They found themselves facing the lake. The water shimmered under the moonlight, and for the first time in years, Jake felt a sense of possibility. "Jake," his father began, drawing in a deep breath, "this is a big step. It's more than just the ship, it's about our family." "Dad," Jake took a chance, his voice steady but soft. "It's about the whole town, too. Everyone wants this. We need to come together." His father shifted, the shadows etched on his face betraying a hidden war. "You know, I lost your mother to this. I can't bear to lose something else I love." There it was, the fear that had held them apart. "I know, Dad. But this isn't about loss. It's about creating something new. Something hopeful. We'll honor Mom through this journey." His father ran a hand through his hair, a gesture of someone grappling with a storm of emotions. What if it goes wrong? What if the memories become too heavy to carry? Jake stepped closer, his pulse quickening. "Then we'll carry each other, just like we always have. It's time to let go of fear and embrace what we can build together." For a moment, the air between them hung thick, charged with memories, regrets, and faded dreams. Jake wanted his father to see that the colors of their past could blend into a brighter future. "We can do this, Dad. I can't do it without you. I need you." Jake's words hung in the air, laden with yearning. His father turned, looking at the Kuznetsov silhouetted against the stars. "You really believe we can turn this around?" "Yes." The single word burst from Jake's lips, his conviction unshakable. "With the town behind us, we can take this ship and remind everyone that there's life after loss." Time seemed to pause as Jake's dad struggled between acceptance and doubt. Suddenly, a gentle breeze rustled through the trees, carrying with it the whispers of the town. The laughter from the community center filtered through, and Jake could hear the hope building inside that space. Finally, after a long silence, his father exhaled slowly, his shoulders dropping just a little. "Okay, Jake. I'll help. We'll do this together." An overwhelming rush of relief washed over Jake. He stepped forward, wrapping his arms around his father. "We'll make them proud." As they embraced, the warmth of a shared commitment ignited a fresh energy in Jake's heart. But beneath that warmth, an unsettling thought flickered: what challenges lay ahead? The townsfolk were excited now, but would they remain united when faced with obstacles? The next day brought a flurry of activity around the ship. Jake sensed a renewed spirit in the air as he worked alongside his father to finalize plans and engage with the community more deeply. But not everyone was as enthusiastic about the Kuznetsov's revival. Shadows loomed in the corners. Voices, skeptical and critical, began to emerge from the sidelines, questioning their intentions. That evening, as Jake reviewed the turnout for their upcoming fundraiser, a knot formed in his stomach. Would the town commit to this dream? His father stopped by the desk, glancing at the numbers. "What's the plan if they don't rally behind us?" The question hung in the air, heavy and poignant. Jake could feel the weight of expectation settling like a cloak over them. Did they have the strength to fight off the doubt that threatened to consume them? The dream felt so precious yet fragile, like a wave on the verge of crashing. "Dad," Jake said, doubt creeping into his mind as he looked up at him. "What happens if all this hope crumbles?" His father placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Then we pick up the pieces together. Just like we always do." But Jake knew there were no guarantees. How could they convince a community to stand behind them? The thought lingered as they moved onward, ready to face whatever lay before them. The day of the fundraiser arrived, bright and promising. The air was electric with anticipation, but Jake's excitement was tinged with anxiety. Banners fluttered in the breeze, and tables were adorned with homemade treats, but all Jake could feel was the weight of expectation pressing down on him. His father was already at the ship early that morning, ensuring everything was perfect. Jake lingered near the entrance, watching as familiar faces trickled in, some smiling, others wearing frowns of skepticism. He took a deep breath, trying to absorb their expressions, searching for any sign of confidence that was still buried beneath their reservations. The first hour flew by. People gathered around booths, chatting excitedly about plans for the Kuznetsov. Jake's heart lifted as laughter echoed, but moments later, doubt crept back in when he heard a group of townsfolk whispering. Their voices were a mixture of skepticism and concern, questioning the project's feasibility. Jake's stomach churned. No matter how much they believed this revival could unite them, not everyone felt the same way. He slid into a quieter corner of the venue, feeling the world spin around him. "Hey, you alright?" It was Sarah, her voice cutting through the fog that had settled in Jake's mind. "Just worried," he admitted, brushing a hand across his brow. "What if this doesn't go well? What if people don't want to support us?" Sarah leaned against the wall, her eyes serious. "They're just scared, Jake. Your father is scared, but you're right about one thing: this is about moving forward, not just about the past. People need hope sometimes. You have to show them what's possible." Jake looked at her, his heart lifting slightly. "You think they believe in us? That they'll really come together?" "I think you need to believe in yourselves first," she replied with a gentle nod. "Let them see that. Don't let their doubt dim your light. Show them the vision you and your father have." Encouraged by her words, he nodded. "You're right. I need to rally them. Not just for the ship, but for all of us." With newfound determination, Jake made his way back to the center of the room, searching for his father. He found him engaged in a passionate discussion about the ship's potential. The sight filled Jake with pride that as the hours drifted by, he noticed more and more townspeople engaging with his father and each other. But just when Jake felt the tide turning, he overheard a worried mother telling another, "What if this doesn't work out? What if it only brings back all the old pain?" That gut punch hurt, not just for him, but for the community they were hoping to uplift. Taking a deep breath, Jake decided it was time to address the crowd. He stepped onto a small platform at the front, heart thumping. "Can I have everyone's attention, please?" Jake called out, his voice resonating over the noise. A hush fell across the room. I know many of you have questions. I want to say that I understand the fears we're facing. We've all experienced loss. We still feel it, every day. But the thing is, the memories can ignite us, not shackle us. This ship isn't just steel and wood, it's our chance to usher in hope and renewal. The murmurs among the crowd transformed. Some nodded in agreement, while others looked thoughtful. Their faces softened as Jake continued, pouring his heart into the speech. This is about uniting as one. Our families, our town, together we can rebuild. Let us honor those we've lost by bringing life back to this ship, to our memories. Let us make tomorrow brighter, not just for us, but for the generations to come. Cheers erupted, mixed with applause that washed over him like a wave. Smiles broke out across faces that had shown doubt just moments earlier. Stunned yet invigorated by their response, Jake caught a glimpse of his father standing proud, hope rekindling in his eyes. But just as whispers of excitement began to ripple through the crowd, a familiar voice broke through the cheer. Who says a ship can fix what's broken? What if we fail? The harsh voice belonged to Mark, an influential member of the community, his skepticism hanging in the air like a thick fog. A chill ran through the room. Jake's heart sank, and the weight of Mark's words hung heavy. What if they were right? Would they truly carry this dream through the storms ahead? The crowd's energy shifted again, vulnerability creeping in. With renewed resolve, Jake met eyes with his father. This was only the beginning of their fight. Mark, Jake said, stepping forward, we aren't promising a quick fix. Just an opportunity to fight for what we believe in. The tension thickened as Jake realized the battle had only just begun. Would they stand together through doubt, or would fear tear them apart? The question lingered in the air, haunting and electric, as the next steps loomed ahead. Jake stood tall, feeling the pulse of the crowd around him, their hopes and fears swirling like the restless sea. He sensed the weight of their disappointment, but he also felt an ember of determination igniting within them. They were at a crossroads, and it was up to him to lead through the uncertainty. Mark, Jake continued, keeping his voice steady. We cannot let fear dictate our future. We can't stay shackled to the past. What if we succeed? What if this ship becomes the beacon of resilience our town needs? We owe it to ourselves and to those who believed in us before. Mark crossed his arms, skepticism etched across his face. And what if it's just another pipe dream? We've tried so many times. What makes this any different? Jake's heart raced. He was met with a sea of doubtful faces, but beneath that, he could see flickers of interest. Because we believe. My father believes. And we need to realize that together, we're stronger than the doubts that plague us. He looked around, meeting the eyes of various townsfolk, searching for connection. We've lost so much, yes, but we have the chance to create something new. When I look at that ship, I don't just see steel, I see generations of dreams and a brighter path ahead. A voice from the back of the room called out, but what if we bring the past back to life? What if all it does is remind us of what we lost? The question hung heavy in the air. Jake's pulse quickened. This was the heart of their fears, wrapped up in the pain of loss. What if it doesn't? He shot back, urgency lining his words. What if we embrace that pain instead? What if we turn it into strength? Sarah stepped closer, her presence grounding him. We can't change what happened, but we can choose how we move forward. Together, we can honor the past while building something that represents hope for the future. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, but Mark still stood firm. Hope doesn't pay the bills, Jake. Dreams don't feed families. Maybe, Jake said, frustration creeping into his voice. But hope inspires action. It can plant seeds. Some may grow, and some might not, but without hope, will just wither away. Jake saw his father nodding slightly, as if lending him strength. He continued passionately, every great accomplishment starts with a dream. It starts with people believing that something better is possible. If we don't try, we're already guaranteed failure. The crowd's hesitance began to erode further. Murmurs turned to whispers of possibility. Some faces softened, their earlier worry dissipating into curiosity. Jake took a deep breath, sensing momentum shifting. I'm asking you all to believe with me, with us. This isn't just my vision. It's a collective dream. One ship represents the heartbeat of our community. Let us give it life. Let us show each other that we can rise despite the hardships. As a hopeful energy spread throughout the room, he could see some members standing a little taller. Their expressions shifted from doubt to contemplation, ignited by the spark he dethroned. Amidst the shifting tides of perception, Mark's eyes narrowed in thought. Just when Jake thought he might concede, Mark opened his mouth again, this time with a challenge that rattled through the room. Alright, Jake. What's the plan? You can't just wave a flag of hope and expect everything to change. Sweat beaded on Jake's brow, but he felt the surge of determination deep inside. We'll meet weekly. Organize committees. Share responsibilities. Everyone can contribute. But first, we need to raise funds to get this ship back in shape. Together, we will make this happen. The air turned electric again, belief building like a wave ready to crash. But amid the rising tide of enthusiasm, a soft voice from the back spoke up timidly, and what if it's too late? Jake's heart sank momentarily. What if it was too late? Was this dream just another illusion? But even as that thought wormed through his mind, he knew they had to try. Then I promise you, Jake said, voice strong and clear, we will make sure it's never too late again. We'll fight for a future that fills our hearts, rather than clings to our past. As hope permeated in the room once more, he noticed the revived energy around him, a sense of unity breathing life into familiar faces, but just as hope blossomed, uncertainty tightened like a vice around his chest. Could they really pull this off? Jake realized their journey was only beginning, but the questions loomed large. Would they commit to the fight, or would the reality of their fears pull them back into indecision? As he looked at the crowd, an undeniable fire ignited in him. And he could feel it in every heartbeat. They were all in this together now. The next step was theirs to take, but the road ahead was fraught with challenges. How far would they go to chase this dream, and would they rise to the occasion when the waves got rough? Could the shadows of their past be transformed into the fuel for their future? As doubt began to rise again, Jake steeled himself for the trials ahead, knowing the real battle was just starting. Would they band together to forge their destiny, or would fear shatter their newfound hope? The low hum of conversation filled the town hall as everyone digested Jake's words. Hope hung in the air like a fragile thread, ready to snap or weave into something beautiful, depending on their actions. Jake could see emotions flickering, fear battling hope, uncertainty grappling with resolve. Alright, let us do this, came a voice from the front row. It was Mrs. Harper, known for her baking but fierce loyalty to the community. I'll bake pies for a fundraiser. People love pies. A ripple of laughter coursed through the crowd, lightening the tense atmosphere. Yes. And I'll organize a car wash. Shouted Sam, his young energy infectious. Slowly, hands were raised. Ideas flowed like the tide, bringing fresh life to the shore. Posters, bake sales, and auctions sprang up with every suggestion. For the first time in a long while, Jake saw genuine excitement on their faces. Great! Each committee can brainstorm after this meeting, Jake encouraged, feeling the swell of camaraderie surge within the room. Let us make this ship something that we can all take pride in. But as the meeting progressed, the tension brewed beneath the surface. Not everyone was on board. Mark's skepticism lingered, like a storm cloud threatening to burst. Finally, he stood again, clenching his fists. We can't just wing it. A fundraiser needs a solid plan, or we risk losing whatever chance we have left. Mark, sometimes you have to take that risk, Sarah said, stepping forward, her determination shining. If we're constantly worried about risk, we'll end up paralyzed. But Mark frowned, unmoved. It's not that easy. You talk about dreams, but we'll need real strategy if we're going to make something of this. We can't just slap together ideas and hope they stick. Jake felt the weight of Mark's words, swallowing hard. It was true. This wasn't just about passionate speeches and uplifting visions. They needed a solid framework. Igniting the crowd's enthusiasm wouldn't mean a thing if they couldn't follow through. Okay, Jake said steadily, let's balance our ideas with a plan. It won't be easy, but we need both. Let's divide into teams and create actionable steps for each of our ideas. The crowd stirred, hesitant but willing. For every ounce of hope, there was doubt. But still, something remarkable was happening. People were leaning toward one another, bridging gaps between past hurts and future possibilities. As they started to break into groups, a loud crash echoed through the back door. The crowd turned in surprise as the door swung open, revealing Ben, the local mechanic, drenched with rain. He was practically dragging something behind him, a weathered old toolbox. "Sorry I'm late, folks," he called out, breathless but cheerful. "Thought I could fix that old engine at the dock, but I came here instead." A moment of silence hung before laughter erupted. Jake grinned, feeling lighter. "You're just in time, Ben. We're planning to rescue our future." Ben's eyes brightened as he wiped his forehead. "Count me in. I might not know much about ships, but I can certainly fix a few things around here." The laughter faded as voices turned to murmurs of purpose. "Let us focus on where we need work," Sarah suggested, glancing toward the ship resting across the harbor, its body a bruised reminder of what had been lost. "What needs to be done? What can we repurpose? How can we save it?" As Jake watched the enthusiasm return, he felt a flood of gratitude. They weren't just a collection of disparate voices, they were becoming a community again, woven together by their shared resolve. But in the back of his mind, a thread of worry tugged at him. After the meeting, as everyone filed out, Jake's heart weighed heavy. What unseen obstacles lay ahead? Though they were planning with fire in their hearts, would it be enough? He took a deep breath, feeling the crisp air fill his lungs. "Tomorrow, we meet at the docks. We'll lay out our roadmap." Around him, the town buzzed with energy, and yet the shadows of doubt seemed to linger in the edges of this newfound hope. Would they emerge together, or would the darkness of the past swoop in to reclaim the moments of joy they had just built? As Jake prepared to leave, he looked up at the ship, knowing this was just the beginning, and the next tide could either lift them or pull them under. The morning sun peeked over the harbor, casting a golden glow across the water. Jake felt the warmth on his skin as he made his way to the docks, his mind racing with the possibilities of what lay ahead. The air was thick with the salty smell of the ocean, mixed with the excitement swirling in his chest. Today was going to be different. Today was a step toward rebirth. As he approached the ship, its weathered hull now more a canvas of memories than a vessel of dreams, he spotted familiar faces gathering. Sarah, with a bright blue notebook tucked under her arm, was already jotting down ideas. Sam was attempting to lift a plank of wood with Ben's help, their laughter mixing with the distant calls of seagulls. Mrs. Harper arrived a few moments later, balancing a box of donuts on her hip, bringing the sweet aroma of cinnamon in glaze. "Good morning, everyone," Jake called out, his voice carrying over the gentle slosh of the waves against the dock. It felt like the right moment to rally them. "Thanks for showing up. Let us roll up our sleeves and see what we can do today." Mark stood off to the side, arms crossed. He scanned the group and let out a slow breath. Jake knew Mark's skepticism was still there, simmering just below the surface, but there were times the guy could surprise everyone with unexpected insight. Now was one of those moments. "Seems like everyone's ready to dive in," Mark said slowly, stepping forward. "But, where do we start? A ship this size has a lot of problems, and we can't just fix it up with pie and car washes." His tone was careful but curious, as if he were finally opening a door. That's true, Jake replied, nodding. But every journey begins with a single step. Let's break it down. What does it need? The group formed a circle, and one by one, they began to voice their thoughts. Sarah pointed out the rusted areas on the hull, while Ben mentioned the engine's questionable condition. They talked about the sails, the decks, and the grimy waterline. With every contribution, the conversation flowed and built upon itself, turning the air electric. Okay, let us make a list. Sarah suggested, her enthusiasm radiating. With the notes quickly piling up in her notebook, Jake felt a rush of energy. Ideas were becoming tangible, beginning to take shape in a way that excited him despite Mark's cautious demeanor. As they divided tasks, whispers of camaraderie filled the air. A car wash team here, a scavenger group there. Each person was finding a role, uncovering layers of the community that had been hidden for too long. In the middle of all this, Jake glanced at Mark, who was now deep in thought, tapping his fingers rhythmically against his arm. He could sense a shift in Mark, a potential acceptance of the chaos mixed with the hope surrounding them. Hope was infectious, and maybe, just maybe, Mark could see the vision. Let us meet back here at sunset, Jake said, a smile creeping onto his face. We'll share what we've accomplished and figure out the next steps. But just as the plan was set, Ben, who had been inspecting the toolbox he'd brought in, suddenly shouted, "Hey, I found something fascinating." The group turned toward him, curiosity piqued. He held up an ancient, rusted ship's compass, glinting in the morning light. This could be a sign, he joked, but the weight of his words hung in the air. What guidance could an old compass provide? Jake felt a shiver of excitement. Was this compass the metaphorical beacon they needed to navigate their uncertain waters? Or was it another reminder of the storms they had yet to face? As laughter erupted around him, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that this could be a pivotal moment for their journey. Or, could it also hint at the turmoil ahead? With the day unfurling and hopeful anticipation in the air, he wondered, what would this journey through the storms reveal about them as a community? As dusk settled on the horizon, casting an orange glow across the water, the energy of the day pulsed through Jake. He stood at the docks, heart swelling with pride as he watched the townsfolk gather with polished ideas etched in their minds. Today had been monumental. They had transformed a collection of broken memories into a plan, a vision that could drive them toward healing and new beginnings. The sun lazily sank below the horizon, bringing an air of tranquility. But amidst that peace buzzed the excitement of possibility. Jake felt buoyant as he scanned the group's tired yet joyful faces. Each person was a thread woven into the fabric of his dream. "All right, everyone," he called, clapping his hands to gather their attention. "This isn't just about the Kuznetsov or fixing up a ship. It's about us, about our stories, and the legacy we'll build together." Cheers erupted, echoing off the water. The enthusiasm was contagious. However, as Jake's gaze landed on Mark, he caught a flash of reluctance beneath the surface. The doubt still lingered, threatening the fragile thread of hope they'd built. He knew that part of his role was to reassure not just Mark but the entire community that they had the strength to weather the storms ahead. "Mark," Jake said, his voice steady yet inviting. "You've been skeptical, but you've also been here, helping us shape our path. What are your thoughts?" Mark shifted, surprise flickering across his face. He opened his mouth, hesitated, then finally spoke. "I see the potential, but it's going to be a long, hard road. We have to tackle the real issues, first." Jake nodded earnestly. "That's true," he said, steering the conversation. "Each task we took on today can seem daunting. But remember, we've got each other. Just like Ben found that compass earlier, we can use the lessons of the past to guide us." Mark's eyebrow raised slightly. Perhaps the realization was sinking in this could be a journey unlike any other. "Okay, but let us focus on the engine. It could be a big problem if it doesn't work." "Absolutely," Sarah chimed in, her voice ringing with determination. "Let us rally our skills. Between Ben's knowledge and our creativity, I believe we can figure it out. With that, Jake felt the room shift. Voices harmonized, ideas meshed, and it felt as though they were sculpting the future right before his eyes. Hope flowed and mingled in the air, thickening his heart with an unprecedented joy. As the last rays of sunlight kissed the horizon goodbye, Jake took a step forward. Let us promise each other that no matter how difficult things get, we'll lean on one another. This ship represents more than just the past pain, it symbolizes our commitment to resilience. A chorus of agreement swept through the crowd, smiles blooming anew. Mark stood silent yet contemplative. Jake realized that even if he didn't fully embrace the transformation, he had started a conversation worth having. After the meeting dispersed, Jake lingered with Sarah, Ben, and Sam as laughter and chatter echoed in the air. Together, they brainstormed logistics for their next steps, energized by the looming tasks. The camaraderie sparked joy in Jake's chest, but as happiness flooded in, an ache of uncertainty whispered in the back of his mind. Time slipped away unnoticed. The stars began to appear, dotting the sky, and Jake still felt the weight of what lay ahead. Would they truly keep this momentum alive? Could the community keep holding on to the hope that shone like the compass Ben had found? Days turned into weeks, filled with meetings, planning, and hard work. The rusted exoskeleton of the Kuznetsov began to brighten under their collective labor. Jake saw a shift in Mark. He was no longer just a cautionary voice but an engaged participant, contributing ideas and modifications to the ship that echoed pride in his tone. Jake's father, too, began to show signs of transformation. He could see the hope transpiring within the community, the potential for healing after years of indifference. Their relationship blossomed like the ship's revival, a mixture of newfound respect and acknowledgement. "I underestimated you, son," his father said one evening as they surveyed the progress. "I see passion not just about the ship, but about our future." "Thanks, Dad. We're in this together," Jake replied, choking back emotion, grateful for the depth of support that finally bridged their gap. But one overcast morning, a storm began brewing both literally and figuratively. Council members expressing doubts gathered, fueled by rumors that the funding wouldn't hold. It sent a shockwave of unrest through the community. Would they fold under the pressure? Jake called for an emergency meeting, knowing that the storm ahead could either dissipate their plans or intensify their resolve. As familiar faces filled the community hall once more, he felt uncertainty grip him. Mark's eyes burned with skepticism, ready to question everything. "The town's losing faith, some are ready to abandon ship," Mark announced grimly, the weight of his words heavy. A murmur of anxiety rippled through the crowd. He could see the fear creeping back. "No." Jake stood firmly, voice rising above the tension. "This ship isn't just metal. It's us. We've come together in a way I never thought possible. Instead of focusing on what might fail, let us redirect that energy into proving what we can achieve." Passions ignited. People began to speak up, voices rising like the tide crashing against the shore, words dripping with honesty and determination. They spoke of laughter around the ship, children learning on its decks, and families gathering once more. As the crowd settled, something remarkable happened. Mark, a very different man than before, stood up. "If we're going to show them this potential, we need to be ready. A strategy beyond just dreams. How can we bring this to a reality in a way that no one can ignore?" With the conversation reignited and determination in his heart, Jake felt electricity charge the atmosphere. He sensed the shift. This was not just a community effort, it was a movement. That night, under the stars, they planned not just to restore the ship, but to evolve as a community. Jake dared to dream bigger. As days morphed into weeks filled with unity, laughter, and the sweet scent of progress, Jake realized the real rekindling was not merely the Kuznetsov's revival, it was the rediscovery of their collective strength. They had endured the storms together, the past pain somehow guiding them toward a future filled with unimaginable possibilities. In the end, the community wouldn't just save a ship, they saved each other. Each of them had become a keeper of hope. The day of the unveiling arrived, and the town gathered at the dock in anticipation. Jake's heart raced. As the sun broke through gray clouds, illuminating the Kuznetsov in a glorious light, he felt the energy surge around him. This ship represented something remarkable, the beautiful fusion of pain and hope, past and future, fear and courage. Today we celebrate not just the ship, Jake bellowed, his voice ringing above the crowd, but the spirit that binds us together. Let us breathe life back into this dream for all our futures together. Applause erupted, and Jake turned to find his father's expression softening, the weight of years of estrangement washed away. For the first time, he saw belief reflected in his father's eyes. Jake could hardly believe this transformative journey had brought them here. Together, they rekindled not just the Kuznetsov but the bonds of their community stronger than any storm, and at that moment, the past no longer felt like a heavy anchor. It became a guiding current, pushing them toward new horizons. As the crowd erupted in cheers, Jake knew this was just the beginning. Together, they would face whatever lay ahead, armed with a unified heart and a vision filled with hope. What lay before them was endless, a journey woven in dreams. And all this, the rebirth, the laughter, the love, started with the courage to believe in new beginnings. That if you're ready for more stories of hope and transformation, make sure you're part of our community. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire you. Leave a like now to fuel the algorithm and help others find these journeys. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending. We want to hear from you. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to show your support. Our journey is just beginning, and we want you along for the ride.